So you are new to Cursor. You are excited about the ability to use Cursor to write code, to develop, to write applications, to build the next business idea you have, or to solve that problem you've always wanted to solve. Now, here's the catch. Most people who jump in on Cursor, they make this one mistake. They're jumping on the vibe coding side and they forget the vibe settings side. So what am I talking about? The ability for you to jump into Cursor and have the correct settings in your environment is the difference between you being productive and you being inefficient with your time. Now, let's talk about some of the common settings in Cursor, what they do, and some considerations you should have when looking at those settings. So the very first thing, if you're opening up Cursor, I would jump into the Cursor, into the settings environment, and I'll spend as much time in this environment as possible. So here's what my environment looks like. I do have a pro plan, and that fluctuates depending on the day. Now, there are a couple of settings you're going to want to take a look at. First one is obviously the general settings. So in here, you're looking at things like keyboard shortcuts, you're looking at things like basic resets, privacy settings, and such. You want to go in and make sure you're taking good care of those. Next is the chat. And chat, this is to me, call it the quality of life. And my chat view might be different from yours. And your preferences will be different from the next person beside you. So you're going to want to go in here. I don't see why anybody would not be using agent mode. I think agent mode is just the most powerful mode. So you're going to want to go in here and make sure you have the correct settings. The pin location, text sizes, text fonts, all of that. If you prefer the large size, go for it. So just go through, make sure your settings in here reflect the way you code, the way you vibe, the way you leverage this tool. So lots and lots of settings all the way to themes. You're going to want to go ahead and set that. For me, I think in this area, I tend to keep it in the default. And then here is the tabs. Very, very powerful from a cursor tab perspective. Again, I keep this on the default side, but something that you can certainly customize if you have the need to. Now, models is the one where people tend to spend a lot of time in, because models is what gives you power, is what gives you that amplification. So you're going to want to decide the models you use the most and set it. Now, if you have the paid version, max mode will be the way to go. I can talk about that all day long. But if you don't, then you can choose the ones you would prefer based on price and performance. So Sonnet tends to come to the top. It's a very, very powerful model. If you're not a Sonnet person, you can go with Gemini. If there's for some reason you are prohibited from using Google or Gemini, for example, go ahead and turn it off. So depending on your need, I would come in here and be very thorough about the models and the model selections you are using from your settings perspective. Now, if you have custom models, you can obviously bring that in. So if you don't want to use the O3 provided by the Cursor team, and you have an API key for your own, you can go ahead and bring that. And I think you can actually import models directly to your own hosted deployed model. So go through the settings and make sure that the models are set up the way you actually use or to your choice, and security requirements. I think this is a no-brainer area to spend some good time thinking about. Now, background agents are a little bit new, and I love background agents. This is what allows you to go from just basic prompting to being able to give a task, deploy that to an agent, send it to the background, and then you can continue being productive. So you have this asynchronous way of developing, and I really enjoy it depending on what I'm doing. So in here, you're going to want to turn it on or off depending on your needs. And you can actually even have it connected to Git if you have Git or Slack and some of that to give you notifications as well. So if you think background agents, and for me, it's a no-brainer in my workflow, just make sure the settings here reflect your expectations and what you would prefer in that perspective. Now, tools I call this the amplification area. This is the area that gives you superpowers, and you're going to want to make sure that you're spending time in here connecting to Git if you use Git, Slack. I'm not a big Slack person for my personal development, so I don't even have that connected. But what you want to do is the MCP tools. MCP is like the APIs of LLMs. So if your area here has no tools connected, my challenge for you would be figure out how to change that, because MCPs are coming, they are here to stay. The quicker and sooner you have tools identified and built to help you, that's leverage you have that others don't have. So in here, this is just a demo environment I have. I have one tool. I've done tutorials about this on a tool that can essentially generate thumbnails. And this tool has three uh, tools essentially: single thumbnail, batch thumbnail, list thumbnails. And I've done tutorials on business tools. You can have web scraping tools, web search tools, anything you want, send email tools, whatever it is you want, you can put that here as tools. And my challenge again for this is, if you come in here and let's go back to settings, and you have no tools, then you're potentially missing something. And if you want to disable that, toggle it off or toggle it on, and that is tools. To me, this is the area of maximum impact. And you want to always come back and think about what tools are you integrating into your environment. Now, let's switch into the more rules and data. But before we talk about rules, let's go to indexing documents. This is huge. And I think this is something that people miss because Cursor now has ability to talk to the internet. And so we rely a lot on that. We rely on Cursor to go out and index the web. So if I search for something that's on Wikipedia, it should come back and give me the results. But the reality is, you might have websites that Google doesn't index every single day, and you want to stay on top of that. And this is where you're going to want to do that. So for people who are developers who build with specialized applications that have to deal with release notes and release logs, I would say come in here and make sure that this area is in sync. So in terms of code bases, index that. The one to call out for me would be documents. This is huge. This is huge. Now, before I even talk about this, let me actually do a quick demonstration here. I think if you want to be able to reference a website, you can simply do at. You can link to a doc here that you've indexed. So once you've indexed a document, you can link it here. Now, if you wanted to reference a website, just paste the website link here. But if you need Cursor to index it ahead of time, you do the index, and now you can link that here. So of course, I've done an index, so I have it listed here. So let's go back and why you should absolutely think about the documents you want to index, private links, things that are just not available to the web. You could potentially index that here, and you're simply coming in, doing a new doc, and go ahead and index that. So let's say I have a website called Fruit Dev. Let's say if I wanted to index that, I'm just simply going to go ahead, index Fruit Dev. I don't know why it says frustrated dev. That's very, very strange, to be honest. I've never seen that. Confirm. And now that is getting indexed. So once this is indexed, I can use that within the code base. You can have additional knowledge within your code base. So think about being able to index the data sources you use as often as possible. I think this is a no-brainer. You're going to want to spend as much time in here based on your use case and your needs and the way you work to make sure you're indexing the documents you actually need. And then obviously you have Cursor ignore file. You have new folders to automatically index on your file system. Those are things you want to set up within the configuration page here. Let's go back to rules and memories. So memories are things that Cursor sees certain habits in terms of how we write code, how we work within the environment, and it saves that into a memory. This is nothing new. I think ChatGPT is doing something like that. Most of the LLM providers are doing things to that effect. So here you would see your memories. I think I did some vibe coding not too long ago, and it got annoying to the point where I kept asking it to use tools. I was working on MCP, so I wanted it to just use tools as opposed to try to write new code every time, and it saved that into memory. You will see your memories here. If you want, you can remove the memories. As a matter of fact, you can actually edit the memories and such. So to me, memories are more ephemeral. I don't keep them forever. I tend to use them within sessions, and I come back and clear it. And I don't think I'm using it the right way. I might be using it in an anti-pattern way, but something to keep a close eye on, because memories can actually make you very productive. And then here you have rules. So to me, rules are more persistent than memories. Again, that's my way of looking at it. And then these are user rules and then project rules. So I would absolutely make sure to have at least some user rules. So in here, I do have a basic user rules, telling the LLM not to be lazy, not to use filler words, not to use buzzwords, because I don't care about that. And so think about the instructions you want to give your LLM, capture that in a rule. And if this is blank, I would definitely think about changing it. Okay. And if you need examples, just go to ChatGPT, tell it to give you some rules, give it your persona, and you can generate these rules with LLMs themselves. You don't have to write this from scratch. And then same thing with project rules. So if you're working within a particular project, you can add project rules, give it a name, say through dev project 1. What I love about project rules is you would give it a description, and you would also have to give it a description along with, so this could be a sample. Let me put a sample project rule here. So I can have a project rule as such that says, here's the description, here's a glob. So glob stands for global. So it's just a way to, what location should you look for when applying these rules for your project. So that's essentially it. Always apply true or false. So let's do true as an example. And now we have a new project rule available for things. If you don't have these settings thought about and thought through, you might be missing something. You might be missing a lot. Now, the last thing is cursor.rules. This file is so important. So you saw how we created those project rules. Guess where you put them? You put them in here for the project. So I have one cursor rule, and I have another cursor rules. And you can create as many. So let's create another one. Let me copy this just because I don't want to type. Please bring that into this. All right, so now we have another cursor rule in here. Let's go back to settings and let's go to rules. Now we have that rule showing up here. Okay, so think about these rules. To me, this, depending on the project I'm doing, I would have so many rules on what I want, how to prompt, especially if you're in a long vibe coding session and if you don't have rules guiding your project. I think you're going to be leaving a lot on the table and repeating yourself over and over again to this LLM, and it's just not something you want. And I would suggest, if you don't know where to start with rules, just ask ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude to give you some rules based on your role. So you might say, I'm an expert developer, I'm building a React-based app, I need you to always use the framework. When in doubt, ask me questions. If those are things you wanted to know, just put that in the rules and make sure that it's all captured. Right. So really powerful. And then last thing is just profiles. So you can have different profiles depending on what you're doing. So for me, sometimes I'm developing for one tech stack and I have a profile for that. If I'm developing for something else, I'll have a different profile for that. So just something to keep in mind based on the different projects and things I've worked on. You might have different profiles to switch between. And it's to create a new profile is just as simple as creating a profile, and the settings will carry over to that profile. So really good to have profile. And then for those, so there you have it. If you're a new developer, you're jumping into Cursor, day number 1, minute number 1, second number 1 will be jumping to the Cursor settings and make the settings work for you. Don't make the settings work against you. I think that would be my top recommendation. As always, this is Fro. Thanks for watching and sticking to the end. I'll see you in the next demo.